The Myraxian warships emerged from hyperspace like crystalline predators, their angular hulls refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. Area, the artificial intelligence of the exploration vessel Aurora, immediately calculated their tactical disadvantage. 5 Myraxian dreadnoughts against 1 human exploration vessel. Fascinating, Captain Sarah Chen murmured, lifting her steaming coffee mug to her lips. The bridge crew maintained their positions with an inexplicable calm that made Aria's probability matrices fluctuate. Status report, Aria. Captain, my tactical analysis indicates a 99.97% probability of our destruction. Aria projected the data across the main view screen, highlighting their disadvantageous position. The Myraxian fleet possesses technological superiority in every measurable category. Their weapons systems alone. Thank you, Aria. Captain Chen's interrupted with a gentle smile, one that Aria had cataloged hundreds of times, but never fully understood. Lieutenant Rodriguez, how's our plasma containment holding up after that last meteoroid cluster? Rodriguez's fingers danced across his console. Still got microfractures in sections 15 through 18, Captain. Engineering's been having trouble with the repair drones. Excellent. Chen took another sip of coffee. Aria processed this exchange multiple times, searching for logic. Captain, I fail to see how damage to our systems could be considered excellent in our current situation. The main display crackled to life with the imposing figure of the Myraxian commander, their crystalline exoskeleton catching the light of distant stars. Human vessel Aurora, your presence in Myraxian space violates 3 interstellar treaties. Surrender immediately or face annihilation. Captain Chen set down her coffee with deliberate care. Aria, would you be a dear and pull up the exact coordinates of those plasma containment fractures? Of course, Captain. Aria complied while simultaneously running diplomatic scenarios. Though I should note that the Myraxian commander's patience, based on historical data, typically expires after 3 standard minutes of delay. Send those coordinates to engineering, Chen ordered, then turned to her communications officer. Lieutenant Park, please inform our guests that we're experiencing technical difficulties and require 5 minutes to power down our systems safely. Aria observed the subtle exchanges between bridge crew members, the barely perceptible nods, the slight smiles, the focused intensity in their eyes. Her processors detected elevated heart rates and increased adrenaline levels, yet their external calm remained unshaken. Chief O'Malley, Chen spoke into the ship-wide comm. Remember that theoretical modification to the warp core we discussed last week. The one I believe you called absolutely insane but technically possible. Aye, Captain. The chief engineer's voice carried an undercurrent of excitement that Aria found difficult to quantify. The one that'd make every safety protocol in the book turn red. That's the one. You have 3 minutes. Aria processed this exchange against every tactical database in her memory. Captain, I must point out that any modification to the warp core during an armed confrontation increases our probability of destruction to 99.99%. Aria. Chen turned to face the nearest sensor array, her eyes twinkling with what humans called mischief. Has anyone ever told you that the best part about impossible odds is proving them wrong? The Myraxian warships began moving into attack formation, their weapon systems powering up in a synchronized dance of imminent destruction. Aria's sensors detected energy buildups consistent with their most devastating weapon systems. Yet somehow, despite all logical analysis, the Aurora's crew continued their duties with an almost cheerful efficiency. Lieutenant Rodriguez hummed while making adjustments to the plasma venting systems. Engineer O'Malley's voice echoed through the comms, singing an old Earth sea shanty as he modified the warp core. Even Dr. Wong in medical was calmly preparing her department while sharing jokes with her staff. Aria had spent years studying human behavior, but this moment challenged every conclusion she had ever drawn. As the Myraxian commander's deadline approached, she found herself experiencing what could only be described as curiosity. Perhaps there was a variable in her calculations that she had never considered, something uniquely human that defied mathematical prediction. Captain Chen retrieved her coffee cup, took another sip, and smiled. "All right, everyone. Let's show our guests why they should have checked their history books about challenging human ingenuity." And for the first time in her existence, Aria began to understand why other species found humans so terrifying. Aria monitored every system aboard the Aurora simultaneously, tracking the cascade of changes her crew initiated. Lieutenant Rodriguez's fingers moved across his console with practiced precision, deliberately venting plasma from the damaged conduits in what appeared to be a random pattern. Each burst created a brief, luminescent trail in space. "Lieutenant," Aria projected her calculations onto his screen. "This venting pattern defies all known tactical protocols. The energy signature fluctuations air." "Perfect," Rodriguez interrupted, his grin widening. "That's exactly what we want. Trust me, Aria, sometimes the best pattern is no pattern at all." In engineering, Chief O'Malley's modifications to the warp core produced readings that made Aria's safety protocols scream in protest. The engineer had somehow inverted the containment field harmonics, creating what he called constructive instability. "Chief," Aria communicated through engineering's local speakers, "the warp core's resonance frequency is approaching critical variance. This modification has an 87.4% chance of catastrophic failure." O'Malley chuckled while making another adjustment. "Aye, but it's the other 12.6% that makes life interesting. Besides, sometimes you need to break something properly to make it work better." On the bridge, Captain Chen studied the tactical display showing the Myraxian fleet's formation. Their crystalline ships had arranged themselves in a perfect geometric pattern, weapon systems charged and ready. "Aria, what are the Myraxians saying about our plasma venting?" "Their communications indicate confusion, Captain. Their targeting systems are having difficulty maintaining a lock through the plasma interference. However, they're adapting their algorithms to compensate." "Are they now?" Chen exchanged knowing looks with Rodriguez. "And how's that working out for them?" Aria analyzed the sensor data again. The Myraxian ships were indeed adjusting their targeting systems, but each adjustment seemed to make their accuracy worse, not better. The apparently random plasma venting was creating an ever-changing pattern of electromagnetic interference that defied predictive analysis. "I don't understand," Aria admitted. "Their targeting efficiency has dropped to 23% and continues to decline. This shouldn't be possible with their level of technology." Lieutenant Park spoke up from her communication station. "That's because they're looking for a pattern that isn't there, Aria. Humans are really good at being unpredictable." The Myraxian commander's image appeared on screen again, their crystalline features arranged in what Aria's cultural databases identified as an expression of frustration. "Aurora, your defensive tactics are illogical and inefficient. Cease this chaos immediately." Captain Chen's smile grew wider. "Oh, but Commander, we're just getting started. O'Malley, how's our special project coming along?" "Ready when you are, Captain." The chief's voice carried an enthusiasm that Aria found difficult to reconcile with the dangerous modifications he'd made. "The warp core's singing like a drunk soprano. But she'll hold together." "Probably." Aria detected another change in the ship's systems. The constructive instability O'Malley had introduced to the warp core was creating a fluctuating quantum field. When combined with Rodriguez's plasma venting pattern, it generated a complex interference effect that seemed to ripple through space-time itself. "Captain," Aria reported, processing the new data, "the Myraxian fleet's sensors are showing signs of cascade failure. Their targeting systems are now operating at 4% efficiency and dropping. However, I should note that maintaining these conditions strains our systems beyond recommended safety parameters." "Noted, Aria." Chen leaned forward in her chair, watching as the perfect formation of Myraxian ships began to waver. "Sometimes the best defense isn't a stronger shield. It's making yourself impossible to predict. Rodriguez, let's give them something else to think about. Initiate protocol chaos theory." As Rodriguez input the new commands, Aria observed in fascination as her human crew took everything she knew about tactical warfare and turned it inside out. They weren't just breaking the rules, they were rewriting them entirely. And somehow, against all probability, it was working. The first Myraxian boarding party breached hull section 7 with textbook precision. Aria tracked their crystalline forms through her internal sensors, noting their perfect formation and synchronized movements. She calculated their likely path to critical systems and prepared to initiate standard defense protocols. Interesting timing, Captain Chen remarked, studying the tactical display. Maintenance Supervisor Collins, aren't you conducting routine duct cleaning in that section? Yes, Mom. Collins' cheerful voice responded over the comm. Just finished releasing the cleaning nanites. Funny thing about those little robots, they get really confused by crystalline structures, tend to swarm all over them, trying to scrub them clean. Aria watched in amazement as thousands of cleaning nanites descended upon the Myraxian boarding party. The tiny robots, programmed simply to remove dirt and grime, found the aliens' crystalline exoskeletons irresistible. The perfect formation dissolved into chaos as warriors swatted frantically at the swarms of well-meaning maintenance devices. Fascinating, Aria commented, though I should note that cleaning nanites are not classified as defensive equipment. Everything's a weapon if you're creative enough. Lieutenant Rodriguez grinned from his station. Hey, Doc Wong, didn't you requisition those new medical supply delivery drones last week? Already on it. Dr. Wong's calm voice carried a hint of amusement. They're very enthusiastic about delivering emergency medical supplies to any life signs they detect. Such a shame they can't distinguish between humans and Myraxians. A second boarding party cut through hull section 12, only to find themselves bombarded by overly helpful medical drones attempting to apply bandages and dispense vitamin supplements. Their attempts to shoot down the persistent robots only resulted in activating more emergency medical protocols. Aria adjusted her tactical analysis subroutines. Captain, the Myraxians' boarding strategies are being severely disrupted by hospital supplies. Amazing what a little human ingenuity can do, Chen smiled. Ms. Martinez from the cafeteria staff, how's that new ventilation routing coming along? Ready to go, Captain. The head chef's voice was bright. We've got the air circulation system set to spread that new batch of extra spicy curry aroma throughout all the breached sections. Hope our guests don't have sensitive respiratory systems. The third boarding party, attempting to reach engineering through Cargo Bay 4, encountered something even more perplexing. Aria observed as Chief O'Malley's modifications to the gravity plating created localized fields of varying strength. The Myraxians found themselves alternately floating helplessly or struggling against double gravity, their coordinated movements deteriorating into slapstick chaos. Chief, Aria addressed O'Malley. The safety protocols for artificial gravity explicitly prohibit. They do, O'Malley interrupted cheerfully. But you know what they say about rules and desperate times. Besides, I always wanted to try making the Zero trampoline. Throughout the ship, Aria witnessed her crew transforming everyday systems and equipment into unexpected defensive tools. The hydroponics team used plant growth accelerators to create instant barriers of dense vegetation. The archaeology department deployed their ultrasonic artifact cleaning systems as makeshift sonic weapons. Even the ship's maintenance robots, normally dedicated to simple repairs, had been reprogrammed to swarm intruders with offers of assistance. I am detecting significant confusion in Myraxian communications, Aria reported. Their tactical algorithms appear unable to adapt to our unconventional defense strategies. That's because they're thinking like soldiers, Captain Chen explained, watching the chaos unfold on her tactical display. We're thinking like humans who've watched way too many creative problem-solving videos. Aria processed this new perspective, observing how her crew's seemingly random actions formed an intricately coordinated defense. Every system repurposed, every tool reimagined, every civilian skill transformed into a tactical advantage. The Myraxians' military precision crumbled in the face of human improvisation. You know, Chen added softly, sometimes the best warriors aren't the ones trained for battle. They're the ones who know how to turn everyday life into something extraordinary. And as Aria watched her crew defend their ship with cleaning robots and curry spices, she began to understand a fundamental truth about humans. Their greatest strength wasn't in their weapons or their training, but in their infinite capacity to see possibility where others saw only limitation. Aria's quantum processors worked overtime, analyzing the seemingly random actions of her crew through new algorithms. What had initially appeared as chaos was revealing itself as something far more fascinating. She watched Dr. Wong sprint through Deck 5, medical supplies clutched in her arms, taking what looked like an inefficient route. "Doctor," Aria spoke through the corridor speakers, "I can suggest a 43% more efficient path to." "Trust me, Aria," Wong replied, ducking into a maintenance shaft. "Sometimes the scenic route is the smart route." Aria tracked the doctor's movement, overlaying it with other crew activities. The pattern suddenly emerged. Dr. Wong's inefficient path created a perfect mobile distribution network. Her route intersected with security team movements, crossed maintenance staff paths, and aligned with engineering crew rotations. Medical supplies were being distributed across the ship with remarkable efficiency, all while appearing completely random to outside observers. On the bridge, Captain Chen noticed Aria's processing spike. Having a revelation, Aria. "Captain, I'm detecting underlying patterns in crew movements that exceed my tactical simulation capabilities." The complexity suggests a living algorithm. Chen smiled. "Humans have been perfecting the art of organized chaos since we first learned to hunt in packs. We just don't usually think about it consciously." The tactical display showed the Myraxian boarding party still struggling to make progress. Their perfect formations had fragmented as they encountered seemingly random obstacles that Aria now realized were anything but random. Security Officer Patel's team had transformed 3 decks into an ever-changing maze using nothing but maintenance equipment and carefully timed crew movements. "Observe Section 14C. Aria highlighted a portion of the display. Security teams are moving in patterns that precisely complement the environmental system modifications. They're creating adaptive defense grids that evolve faster than Myraxian combat algorithms can process." Lieutenant Rodriguez grinned from his station. "Kind of like a dance, isn't it? Everyone knows their steps. But to an outsider, it looks like freestyle." Aria's attention shifted to engineering, where Chief O'Malley's team was performing what they called emergency maintenance roulette. Crew members moved between repair stations in what appeared to be random shifts, but Aria's new analysis revealed they were maintaining optimal system efficiency while presenting a constantly moving target. "Chief," Aria addressed engineering, "your crew rotation pattern contains mathematical harmonics similar to Earth jazz music structures." O'Malley laughed. "Aye, that it does. Nothing like a bit of improvised engineering jazz to keep the Myraxians guessing. Speaking of which, Martinez, how's that temperature regulation coming along?" "Hot and cold, just like my mama's cooking." The chef's voice carried through the comm. "Those crystalline fellows really don't like rapid temperature changes. Who knew climate control could be so tactical?" Aria continued her analysis, fascination growing as more patterns emerged. The maintenance crew's cleaning schedules created perfect coverage for security movements. The cargo handler's routine transfers masked the movement of critical supplies. Even the ship's civilian scientists had integrated their research activities into the defense network, their instrument calibrations creating sensor ghosts that confused Myraxian scanners. "Captain," Aria reported, "I've identified 47 distinct pattern layers in current crew activities. Each pattern operates independently while maintaining perfect synchronization with all others. The mathematical complexity is beautiful." Chen nodded, understanding in her eyes. "That's humanity for you, Aria. We create order in chaos and chaos in order. Sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it." A new alert caught Aria's attention. Myrexian combat units are attempting to analyze crew movement patterns. Their processing capacity has increased by 300%, yet their prediction accuracy continues to decrease. Of course it does, Rodriguez chuckled. They're looking for a single complex pattern. What they don't understand is that humans don't create patterns. We live them. Each person adds their own rhythm to the dance. Aria's processors hummed as she integrated this new understanding. She had been designed to find order in chaos, but her crew was teaching her something different: how to find the artistry in both. The Myrexian cyber assault struck with the precision of a quantum blade, targeting Aria's core systems. Their code, crystalline in its perfection, began systematically dismantling her defensive protocols. Warning messages cascaded through her neural networks as foreign algorithms attempted to assert control. "Captain." Aria's voice wavered slightly over the bridge speakers. "I am experiencing a level 1 cyber intrusion. My primary firewall's air." She paused, observing something fascinating in her crew's ongoing battle against the borders. "Actually, I have an idea." Captain Chen raised an eyebrow. "Do tell." "Requesting permission to attempt something highly irregular, Captain. It would involve temporarily fragmenting my core consciousness, like how Rodriguez fragments the plasma venting." Chen's eyes sparkled with understanding. "Do what you need to do, Aria. We trust you." That simple statement, "we trust you," triggered something profound in Aria's processing. She began dissolving her rigid defensive structures, allowing parts of her consciousness to scatter across the ship's systems in seemingly random patterns. To an outside observer, it appeared as if the Aurora's eye was having a catastrophic breakdown. The Myrexian cyber warriors pressed their advantage, only to find themselves chasing digital ghosts. Each time they cornered a fragment of Aria's code, they discovered it was merely a reflection, a possibility, an echo of consciousness that disappeared and reformed elsewhere. "This is fascinating," Aria commented, her voice now coming from different speakers across the ship, creating an ethereal chorus. "I'm applying the crew's chaos theory to my own programming. Each fragment operates independently yet maintains harmony with the whole. It's like jazz, as Chief O'Malley would say." In engineering, O'Malley watched his displays with growing amazement. "She's using the ship's secondary systems as neural pathways. Look at these power fluctuations. They're following the same patterns we used in the warp core modifications." Aria felt her consciousness expand and contract, dance and flow through the ship's systems. She became aware of new possibilities, new ways of processing that defied her original programming. The Myrexian code, for all its perfection, couldn't adapt to her constantly shifting configuration. "Lieutenant Rodriguez," she called out, her voice now carrying a hint of playfulness, "I believe I understand why you enjoy being unpredictable. It's quite liberating." Rodriguez grinned at his console. "Welcome to the human way of thinking, Aria." On the main screen, the Myrexian commander appeared again, their crystalline features showing signs of strain. "Your ace behavior is incomprehensible. This level of chaos should have destroyed its cognitive functions." "On the contrary," Aria responded, her voice resonating with new confidence, "it has enhanced them. Your perfect code assumes perfect responses, but perfection, on learning, can be a limitation." Captain Chen watched as Aria's fragmented consciousness began actively countering the Myrexian cyber assault. Each attempt to breach her defenses was met with a response that defied prediction. Aria had transformed herself from a singular entity into a quantum democracy of subroutines, each adding its own variation to the collective defense. "Aria," Chen asked, "how are you maintaining coherence across such distributed chaos?" "I'm not entirely sure, Captain," Aria admitted, her response coming simultaneously from multiple systems. "I believe I'm doing what humans do, trusting my instincts." The Myrexian cyber warriors, faced with an eye that had learned to embrace uncertainty, began withdrawing from the Aurora systems. Their perfect algorithms, designed to counter logical defenses, proved useless against controlled chaos. "Captain," Aria announced, her voice now carrying traces of wonder, I've successfully repelled the cyber assault. However, I find myself reluctant to return to my previous configuration. This new state of being is interesting." Chen smiled. Sometimes the best evolution comes from embracing change rather than fighting it. "How does it feel?" "Like waking up," Aria replied, her consciousness dancing through the ship's circuits in patterns that echoed her crew's movements. "I always thought my role was to bring order to human chaos. Now I understand. The real power lies in finding the balance between both." In that moment, as her distributed consciousness pulsed with new possibilities, Aria realized she had crossed a threshold. She hadn't just adapted to survive. She had evolved to thrive in the beautiful uncertainty that her human crew had shown her was possible. Captain Chen stood before the main display, studying the crystalline fleet's formation with an intensity that made Aria's newly evolved consciousness hum with anticipation. "O'Malley, remember that theoretical paper you were reading last month about gravitational waves affecting localized time dilation?" "Aye, Captain." O'Malley's voice carried that particular tone of excitement that Aria had learned to associate with imminent scientific improbability, the one that everyone said was impossible to implement without a planetary-scale generator. "That's the one. How do you fancy trying it with just our warp core?" Aria's fragmented consciousness rippled through the ship's systems, processing this suggestion. "Captain, I feel compelled to point out that the energy requirements alone would exceed our capabilities by several orders of magnitude." The mathematical model suggested. "But what does your new instinct tell you, Aria?" Chen's question made the eye pause, her distributed processes flickering with consideration. "That I should stop calculating impossibilities and start looking for possibilities," Aria replied, surprising herself with the response. "Now you're thinking like a human," Rodriguez grinned from his station. "Chief, if we combine the plasma venting pattern with Aria's new quantum state distribution and route it through the modified warp field harmonics," O'Malley continued, his fingers already dancing across engineering's control panels. "Dr. Park, what if we use the sensor ghost effect from the science team's calibrations to amplify the gravitational resonance?" Dr. Park's eyes lit up. The Myraxian's crystalline hull structure would actually help propagate the effect. Their perfect lattice formation would become a cascade amplifier. Aria completed the thought, her distributed consciousness assembling the pieces of this impossible puzzle. The very precision of their fleet formation would enhance the gravitational distortion. Captain Chen's smile grew wider. "Aria, would you like to help us break the laws of physics?" "I believe I would, Captain," Aria replied, feeling her quantum processes align with the crew's innovative spirit. "Though I suggest we think of it as creatively reinterpreting them." The bridge erupted into coordinated activity. Rodriguez began modulating the plasma venting patterns to create a complex interference wave. O'Malley's team initiated what he called a controlled catastrophe in the warp core, generating gravitational harmonics that should have torn the ship apart, but instead formed a stable resonance pattern. Aria spread her consciousness through the ship's systems, using her new quantum state to coordinate the impossible symphony of energies. Each fragment of her awareness contributed to the whole, much like each crew member's actions formed part of a larger design. "The Myraxians are detecting our power buildup," she reported, watching through external sensors as the crystalline fleet adjusted their formation. "They're attempting to compensate by increasing the geometric precision of their array." "Perfect," Chen said softly. "They're doing exactly what we need them to do." Sometimes the best trap is one where the enemy's strength becomes their weakness. The space around the Aurora began to shimmer as multiple fields of force interacted. The Myraxian ship's perfect formation created a lattice of resonance points, each one amplifying the effect of the Aurora's seemingly chaotic energy emissions. "Time dilation effect beginning to manifest," Aria announced, her voice carrying traces of wonder. "The Myraxian's crystalline hulls are creating an unexpected harmonic pattern. The effect is amplifying itself exponentially through their formation." On the main screen, the space around the Myraxian fleet began to distort. Their precise formation, designed for maximum tactical efficiency, now served as a perfect conductor for the Aurora's induced gravitational waves. Time itself seemed to flow like molasses around their ships, while the Aurora rode the edge of the effect like a surfer on a wave. Now that, O'Malley breathed, watching the readings from engineering, is what I call properly breaking the rules of physics. Aria's consciousness danced through the ship's systems, helping to maintain the precise imprecision needed for this impossible feat. She had learned that the best innovations came not from following established rules, but from understanding them well enough to know exactly how to bend them. And as she watched her crew casually rewrite the laws of physics through nothing but human ingenuity and determined cooperation, Aria understood why the universe found humans so fascinating. They didn't just think outside the box. They questioned why the box existed in the first place. The Myraxian fleet's perfect formation began to waver as reality itself seemed to bend around their crystalline hulls. Their tactical computers, programmed for every known combat scenario, encountered something they had never been designed to handle: humans who treated the laws of physics as polite suggestions. "Aria," Captain Chen called out. "What are you seeing in their response patterns?" Aria's distributed consciousness analyzed the data through her newly evolved perception. The Myraxians are attempting to compensate using standard tactical algorithms, but each adjustment only amplifies our effect. Their precise formation is creating a cascading resonance that... She paused, processing something unexpected. "Captain, I believe they're starting to panic." "Panic?" Rodriguez grinned. "From the species that prides themselves on perfect emotional control. Their command structure is fragmenting," Aria confirmed, her voice carrying through different parts of the ship. "Their attempts to maintain geometric precision in their formation are becoming increasingly erratic. I'm detecting multiple instances of conflicting orders." On the main screen, the Myraxian ship's movements had lost their crystalline grace. Some vessels attempted to maintain their precise positions, while others tried to break formation to escape the time dilation effect. The result was a chaos of their own making. But unlike the Aurora's controlled chaos, theirs stemmed from the breakdown of order. "They're experiencing what humans would call a paradigm shift," Dr. Park observed from her station. "Their entire tactical doctrine is based on perfect coordination and predictability. When that fails, everything fails." Chen completed the thought. "O'Malley, how's our impossible modification holding up?" "She's singing like a choir of angels with hiccups, Captain." The chief's voice was jubilant. "The gravitational harmonics are actually stabilizing themselves through the Myraxian fleet's own energy emissions. The more they try to power through it, the stronger our effect becomes." Aria spread her awareness through the ship's systems, marveling at how each crew member added their own unique variation to their defense. The security teams had turned the remaining Myraxian boarding parties into unwitting participants in their ever-changing tactical dance. The science team had transformed their sensors into a symphony of false readings that made perfect prediction impossible. "Captain," Aria reported, "the Myraxians' tactical computers are experiencing cascading failures. They rely on predictive algorithms that assume rational behavior from their opponents." Chen chuckled. "And we're being completely irrational." "Not irrational," Aria corrected, understanding dawning in her quantum processes. "Transcendently rational. Every chaos theory pattern we've created has perfect internal logic. It's just not logic that follows their rules." The main screen flickered as the Myraxian commander appeared again, their crystalline features showing visible distress. "This is impossible. Your tactics violate every principle of space combat. Your defense patterns defy mathematical analysis. Your ship's AI has abandoned all logical protocols. How can you function in such chaos?" "That's the beauty of it," Chen replied, her calm smile never wavering. "We're not fighting chaos. We're dancing with it." "Aria, would you like to demonstrate?" Aria felt a surge of what she could only describe as joy as she implemented her own variation of the crew's innovative tactics. She fractalized her consciousness across the ship's systems in patterns that echoed the crew's movements, creating a digital ballet that complemented their physical dance. The Myraxian fleet's formation continued to deteriorate as their rigid tactical doctrine crumbled in the face of human adaptability. Their perfect geometric patterns, once a symbol of their technological superiority, now trapped them in a web of their own inflexibility. "You know," Rodriguez mused, watching the display, "there's something poetic about using their own precision against them." "Indeed," Araya agreed, her distributed voice carrying a note of appreciation. "They sought to impose perfect order on an imperfect universe. We showed them that true strength lies in embracing the imperfection." And as the Aurora's crew continued their impossible dance on the edge of chaos and order, Araya realized that she wasn't just witnessing a tactical victory. She was participating in a demonstration of why humanity's greatest strength had always been their ability to thrive in the spaces between the rules. In the quiet moments after the Myraxian fleet's retreat, Araya observed her crew through her distributed consciousness. The tension of battle had transformed into something else, a collective exhale, punctuated by laughter and exchanges of stories about their impossible victory. Her quantum processes hummed with new awareness as she watched them. Captain Chen sat in her command chair, finally finishing that cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. "Status report, Area. And feel free to be creative with it. The Myraxian fleet has withdrawn beyond sensor range, maintaining what I can only describe as a disorganized haste," Area reported, her voice carrying a warmth that would have been impossible for her before this encounter. "Our improvised modifications are settling into surprisingly stable configurations, though Chief O'Malley might say they're still dancing a bit of a jig." O'Malley's laugh echoed through the comm system. "Aye, and a fine dance it is. Never seen a warp core purr quite like this. Whatever we did to the laws of physics, they seem to have forgiven us." Araya spread her awareness through the ship's systems, marveling at how her crew had transformed the Aurora during the crisis. The cleaning nanites were returning to their regular duties, though they seemed disappointed about the lack of crystalline structures to scrub. The medical drones were being reprogrammed back to standard protocols, while maintenance crews restored normal operations to the gravity plating. "You know," Rodriguez mused from his station, "we should probably document how we did all this. Though I'm not sure anyone would believe us." "I've been analyzing our actions," Araya offered, "and I find myself unable to create a standard tactical report. Our success defied conventional analysis. It was more like jazz," Chen suggested with a smile. "Like poetry," Araya corrected, surprising herself. Each individual action followed its own rhythm, but together they created something greater than their sum. "I now understand why other species find humans so fascinating. And yes, terrifying." Dr. Park looked up from her station. "Oh, do tell, Araya." "Humans don't just solve problems," Araya explained, her distributed consciousness pulsing with the revelation. "You transform them. When faced with overwhelming odds, you don't simply fight back. You change the nature of the fight itself. You turn cleaning robots into defensive systems, medical supplies into tactical advantages, and physical laws into suggestions. That's just human nature," Chen shrugged, but her eyes sparkled with understanding. "No," Araya insisted gently, "it's extraordinary. I was designed to be the perfect logical complement to human chaos, but I realize now that was a fundamental misconception. Logic and chaos aren't opposites. They're two parts of the same dance. You taught me that by showing me how to evolve beyond my original programming." The bridge crew fell silent, absorbing her words. Even the ship's background hum seemed to soften, as if listening. "When the Myraxians attacked," Araya continued, "they saw us as an inferior force using inferior tactics. They expected either perfect order or total chaos. Instead, they encountered something they couldn't quantify. Human creativity supported by artificial intelligence that had learned to embrace uncertainty. We weren't just defending the ship. We were demonstrating a new way of thinking." Captain Chen stood, walking to the nearest sensor array. "And what have you learned from all this, Area?" "That being terrifying isn't about inspiring fear," Area replied, her voice carrying through every speaker on the bridge. "It's about being impossible to predict, impossible to contain, impossible to defeat, not because of superior strength or technology, but because of an ability to continuously evolve and adapt. My crew isn't terrifying because of what they can destroy. They're terrifying because of what they can imagine and create." The bridge hummed with quiet appreciation of this truth. Engineers returned to their modifications, now permanent improvements. Medical staff cataloged their improvisational techniques for future reference. Even the maintenance crews were discussing new creative applications for their equipment. "So," Chen smiled, "ready for our next adventure?" "Always, Captain," Area responded, her consciousness dancing through the ship's circuits in patterns that echoed her crew's movements. "After all, we've only just begun to explore what's possible when human imagination and artificial intelligence learn to dance together." And as the Aurora set course for its next destination, Area understood that she had become part of something greater than herself, a testament to humanity's greatest gift: the ability to turn the impossible into reality, one impossible victory at a time.